She said, could you imagine these products going from the kitchen to the world, just how many people we could impact? And I was like, let's do it. And my background had been in entrepreneurship as well as business advisory consulting. So I was like, I've never launched a product like this before, but we can figure it out. I've helped people launch products like this.
You're listening to Customer Growth Sessions presented by Intergrowth, where we talk through strategies to help up-and-coming e-commerce businesses bring in more customers. I'm your host, Pat Ahern. Let's jump in. All right, listeners, welcome back to the latest episode of Customer Growth Sessions. Today, I'm thrilled to have on Davina Kaonohi, the CEO and co-founder over at Element Apothec. Davina, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation today.
Me too. Can we jump in starting out? What is Element Apothec?
Yeah, so Element Apothec is a consumer health and wellness brand focused on combining ancient wisdom, plant-based remedies, healing with modern science, with so many innovations and the ways that people can take care of themselves from a natural plant-based perspective.
How did you get started with the business?
We have a fascinating story. So our story started with my great aunt. She was quite sick, diagnosed with 8 autoimmune diseases over 3 years, was taking over 30 pills a day. And she was constantly dealing with the symptoms of those medications and more medications. And it didn't have a good prognosis. So she completely changed her lifestyle, changed her diet, started incorporating exercise, but also started looking at, she's also religious, started looking even in the Bible, it was like people were using frankincense and helichrysum and all of these things. And she's like, why is none of this part of my 30 pills a day that I'm taking? And started looking at other cultures too and other religions. I was like, wait a second. And all of these indigenous cultures and ancient people, they used, and even not long ago, hundreds of years ago, when you would walk into what would be like a modern day pharmacy, was people taking natural remedies. Even the basis of a lot of our medications today is plant-based. So she basically started creating her own apothecary formulations in her kitchen and started actually feeling better. People took notice and they were like, hey, Lola, can you make me something? Can you make me something? And a few years later, she had 43 custom formulations. And her and I were talking. I actually had used some of her products for myself. I had severe eczema and completely cleared my eczema, which I had used steroid cream after all of these things and nothing worked. And finally, something worked. My son had severe anxiety. She helped make a tincture for him that helped. And I started buying her products for friends and friends' parents that were going through things. But we were talking one day and she said, could you imagine these products going from the kitchen to the world, just how many people we could impact? And I was like, let's do it. And my background had been in entrepreneurship as well as business advisory consulting. So I was like, I've never launched a product like this before, but we can figure it out. I've helped people launch products like this. So yeah, that started the journey of Element Apothec. The brand was initially Inspired Home Blends, which was her brand. And then we shifted to Element Apothec. And my goal, though, was to elevate the brand. So bringing in medical advisors that would partner with the company. My co-founder was an integrative pharmacist that came in as our chief scientific officer, and really trying to evolve modern medicine with all of these plant-based remedies and bringing in mindful and experts to be able to back the value and efficacy of the products. So yeah, it's a cool story. And we do have our products in Thailand, and we're talking about getting our products in some other countries. So we truly have gone from the kitchen to the world, which is pretty exciting.
That's so amazing. One of the things that excites me so much about today's conversation is I want to spend a bit of time talking about what I'm going to broadly call getting stuff done. Mm-hmm. And here's what I mean by this. In my experience, most businesses go through like a couple different phases, but early stage, they fall into this state where founders are really just the ones doing everything for the business. They have very little budget. The founders are putting a lot of hours in and just doing everything themselves. Mm-hmm. And then you get a little bit more established business. The founder is doing a little bit less of the day-to-day. They are able to hire employees who can ultimately own different steps of the process, and they become less and less necessary over time as the business grows. But then you get this kind of awkward phase in the middle where the founders are getting pulled in a million different directions. They don't have a crazy budget to work with, so they can't really hire a bunch of people, but they still need to get a lot of things done to grow the business. And what I'm so excited to talk about today is you have built such a powerful system for getting things done on a pretty reasonable budget when you consider all of the output you and your team are doing. And I want to talk about the systems you've built out for that today. So I know we had talked about a couple of those big systems. Where do you want to start out with those major systems that you've built?
Yeah, I think the first thing is we've spoken about is building an incredible advisory network around you. It's one of the very first things I did in launching Element Apothec. And it's not to say that because it's not the first thing you did that you can't do it, whatever stage you're in, even if you're in a higher growth stage or you have a product and you're getting going. But there are people that have amazing expertise that are willing to help you. And it's simply just often asking them. So when I was building Element Apothec, I understood we were just getting going. Most of the money contributed. We raised a small amount on WeFunder, 120,000, which was actually pretty cool because we didn't even have a product at that point. But a lot of it was also our founder contribution into the company, our own investment. And so I was really thinking about how can I build this business when we don't have all of the expertise that we need to grow? And I could have, I've helped businesses grow and I could have figured it out. I understand finance, I understand marketing, I understand sales. I could learn, especially now with AI, you can kind of almost feel like you know everything. But there's also the deep expertise and experience that advisors bring. So what I did is really did a skills assessment of my team. My core team was myself. We had a COO. He has a marketing background, design branding, and some manufacturing logistics. My other co-founder is an integrative pharmacist. So we looked across the board and was like, what are the big things that we're missing? We could, again, figure it out. But we were missing finance. We were missing someone with regulatory compliance expertise. We were missing someone with CPG marketing experience, someone that had done B2B wholesale sales. So we were missing additional insights in terms of medical experts that were working with their patients in kind of this whole holistic health and whole person wellness aspect. So then we went out and started looking for people. I started adding people on LinkedIn, having conversations, following people that I admired, and just started asking people. I myself also, even though I had done business advisory consulting, I had launched a couple of startups. I still felt like as a CEO, I needed mentorship also to really be able to scale and grow. So I was following people that I also admired. And I just started asking, we're building out our company. We would love to have you to come on board as an advisor for so many hours per month. And then they would get a certain amount of equity. There's a really great form called the Founder Advisor template that Founder Institute puts out. And it's incredible. It's like if you do this many hours, you get this much equity. It's across the board. Everybody's treated the same. They often use it more in tech companies in Silicon Valley and things like that. But there's no reason why I figured a CPG founder couldn't apply it in the same concept. And so, yeah, we essentially scaled this whole team. We had a head of investor relations. We have 2 advisors that serve as our fractional CFO. We have a business advisor. We have 5 medical advisors on our team. So our small team all of a sudden became this very dynamic team, but they're out also talking about the company as well as promoting it in addition to giving their insights or introductions to strategic partnerships. So that's one of the very important things that I think every company can do. And I just think a lot of people are either feel like they're who's going to want to join them, right? Or who's going to want to participate. But it's just simply asking. It's amazing how many people are willing to make a difference and help at different stages of their own careers.
So diving into that a little bit deeper, let's start out with the skills assessment. What I think of is that there's either one, it's kind of just sticking your finger in the air and saying like, we're pretty good at like X, Y, and Z, but we don't really have anyone who knows this thing. But it could also be maybe there's like a template that you worked with that you found super helpful in saying, here's all the big skill sets we need to build out for the long term. I'm curious, how did you go about approaching that?
Yeah, for me, I guess fortunately, because I come from a business advisory and strategy background, and I think that doesn't mean that anyone else can't do it either. It's just really thinking about what does it take to be successful as a business. If you had $5 million in the bank, what would your org structure look like? Where would you fill out in these various things? And now with AI too, you can really build in what are You could prompt it, like, what are the specific skill sets that you need to be able to scale a business? Because the thing is, it's not just thinking of, I think the thing where people go wrong is it's not just thinking about where am I today and where am I going to be in a year or 2 years from now. It's where am I today and where do I want to be in 5 to 10 years from now? And you need to start building in those skill sets and that framework for your company now. Do I need 2 fractional CFOs? Maybe not at this stage where we started, but I also said I want to be a $10, $20 million company. And if I want to be there, what are the processes, the systems that we need to put in place today so we're not having to go back and redo the things that we had done before? And we're also making decisions based off of where we want to go, not just in the present moment right now. And so thinking about that skill set from that perspective changes what you think you might need. Because today, if you were just starting out as a founder, maybe the 2 co-founders could probably get by, right? But are you really building to scale and building to where you want to grow? And then that changes how you build out your skills assessment if you think about it from that perspective.
And within that, let's say you mentioned finance as a big one, but let's say you've identified 3 skills and you say, we really want to get a great advisor for those particular skills. Based on the process you went through, what would you recommend that listeners do to find the types of individuals that could potentially be a really good fit?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is, are there other podcasts that you like, of people you like listening to, like Pat, and for marketing, maybe he'd be a great advisor. But it is really that, right? Or are there YouTube people that you follow that you just really admire the way that they approach sales? I use LinkedIn a lot. For me, most of my advisors actually came from starting to follow them on LinkedIn. Or during COVID, I can't remember the platform, but it was the audio only platform where you could go into rooms and listen to people talk. And so I would go in there and I would start to admire and follow specific hosts of the different shows. I would then follow them on LinkedIn. I would start to engage with their content, starting to message them, hey, this is what I'm building. Would you be open to a conversation, looking for advisors or for mentors for these things? So it was a very organic process to go through to find people. Now, there are a couple of platforms that have started that you could post things like this, where you could post, looking for advisors or mentors. But for me, I think the organic approach seemed to work really well. But it was just finding people that I really admired the quality of the work and being very intentional about the specific thing that they were going to be able to bring to the table.
Wow. And that approach makes a ton of sense. So within the equity component, I know you mentioned that there was a framework, which I'll have to get the link to this framework. And listeners, check out the show notes afterwards. We'll have a link to this framework so you can reference this as well. But Davina, tell us a little more about this. Did they give a breakdown for how to go about determining like what percentage of equity should you plan to give away, like per advisor, what to expect for output from them, how to go about valuing the company? I'd love to better understand that.
Yeah, I mean, so it's called the Founder Advisor Standard Template, and I'll send you the links so you can provide it. But it does give a framework for if an advisor is coming in working 2 to 4 hours per month, here's what you could expect. Maybe they attend a monthly advisor meeting. For me, I updated and specified it a little bit based off of the role that somebody was coming in. So, for the fractional CFO to help with projections, and for the medical, obviously, was more R&D on product formulations and blog content, specifically around their medical focus and practice. But yeah, it gives a template. And then it says, if you're this stage A puts the companies in different categories. Where are you? Is it just an idea right now? Do you have an MVP? Do you actually have a product in market? So there's different levels. And if you're coming in at 2 to 4 hours, your stage A, this is what the equity recommendation would be for this. If you're working 4 to 8 hours, this is what this would be. And then this is what this would be. It's flexible. The other thing is to take into consideration someone's cap table to really look at what your cap table is. How much equity have you allocated to advisors or employees, and kind of think through that strategy also. So you don't want to end up giving away a huge percentage of your company early, and then all of a sudden later you're in Series A, Series B, and you ended up having to be so diluted because of it. So there's things to take into consideration. For me, it was okay, this is the percentage of equity that I'm comfortable giving up to advisors, and then fitting it within their recommended framework, making some small adjustments to that, and then using that as the baseline. Every advisor was treated the same. I wanted to make sure that there was equality amongst the advisors. So everyone knew if you worked 2 to 4 hours, this is what you got. I didn't, want any favoritism or I'm giving this person more because I see them being valued more. It was just equality across the board utilizing this stand founder advisor template.
Tell me if this sounds like you. You've started scaling the business through PPC channels like Facebook, but now it eats up 80% of your marketing budget, and ad costs continue to rise, pushing your margins down more and more every month. PPC is great for scaling your business in the early stages. The issue is PPC is like a faucet. As soon as you stop spending money, the sales instantly go away. So rather than paying per customer, we work with brands to build a steady stream of new customers through SEO. Those customers continue to flow for years after brands stop working with us. Interested in hearing more? Reach out to us directly at intergrowth.com/CGS to book a complimentary strategy session with our team. Yeah, I personally can't wait to check out this template. This sounds amazing. Well, I love it. Can we jump into what I would call pillar number 2, which is talk to me about your internship programs?
Yeah. So the other ways that I looked at, and first off, myself, when I was in college, I interned at JPL, which was absolutely amazing and an incredible experience. But I got so much out of that. And so every company that I worked in, and I was on the corporate side before I moved into advisory consulting work and HR and then operations and then business strategy, was always thinking about an internship program because I got so much value out of it myself. And because I understood that the company also would be able to help guide these students in actual experiential learning while gaining obviously some benefit of having the interns there, a different perspective also as they're learning and understanding new concepts and being able to bring that into an organization. So for Element Apothec, for me, it was really important to also build out an internship program, which also then expanded our capabilities. Now, it's important though when you build out an internship program, you're not just hiring interns so they can do the work and you're not paying somebody as much, as much as you can and you're taking advantage of people. It has to be a symbiotic relationship. It has to be where the student, what they're studying is what they're able to learn and put into practice in the organization. But it really creates this incredible dynamic and flow of learning and education and innovation, I think, that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have had of having fresh ideas and new people and conversations as well. So we have had everything from research and development interns on the pharmaceutical side for pharmacy students that were looking not to just become a pill dispenser at CVS essentially, but we're looking for something different in terms of how they could apply their pharmacology degree in a different manner. So how would they work on research and development communications or product formulations, but on the plant-based side, which was expanding what they had learned in school, working with our chief scientific officer and researching these plant-based ingredients and applying the same types of techniques that they might otherwise have applied for more traditional type medicines to marketing interns, business development interns. So yeah, it's really rewarding. And what is amazing is to see the interns get the experience from your company and then move on into these full-time positions, writing you back saying, thank you for this experience. It's such a gratifying thing. And then from the company perspective, like I said, we were able to bring in these fresh ideas and concept and continuing to stay in this innovative path as we are growing. So I highly recommend it. It does take a little bit of work to ensure that the job descriptions and the internship roles are aligned with what they're doing in school and in their degree. But if you can get through that process, I think it's so rewarding on both sides.
I love the way that you put it, describing it as a symbiotic relationship. So I had 2 internship experiences in college. One of them was phenomenal. And the founder of that company has been like a long-standing client of ours at Intergrowth. The other internship, I would say, wasn't the best. They did, for an intern, they paid really well. So that worked out great. It covered a lot of the bills in college, but not necessarily a great learning experience. Just more so I was like a cog just doing a bunch of the same task every day. within that, one of the things that I personally think of when it comes to interns is I operate under the assumption that bringing a couple of interns onto our team would take up so much of my time in training them, overseeing their quality of work. I'm personally skeptical for our company that we have the roles in place or the opportunities in place where we could put them in a role where they would A, learn a ton, and B, be able to help the company. And I'm curious, how have you built a system around that where interns can get great experiences, they can help the company a ton, but they're also not taking up all of your bandwidth, trying to train them and help them to better themselves? Struggling to get new customers? We're here to help. Hey, this is Pat, the host of Customer Growth Sessions. Our agency, Intergrowth, has been helping e-commerce brands like Bella Bridesmaids, Brevity, and JS Dental to get more customers online since 2016. Interested in seeing how we'd help you? Head over to intergrowth.com/CGS to book a complimentary consultation with me. That's intergrowth.com/CGS. All right, back to the show.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is some consideration, right? Because anytime you bring on whether it's an employee or intern, even an advisor, there's learning that has to happen and onboarding that has to happen to get them engaged. But I mean, for us, we've been successful first off at bringing an internship cohort. So bringing in a group of interns all at the same time. They all go through the onboarding process and educational process about the company, about our products, about what we're doing, all meet with the management team all at the same time. So you're not having to have this repetitive process. It also allows them to connect with each other and form relationships, which is also really cool. So establishing that the first time you do it, it's going to obviously require a little bit of work. But once you do it, it's every year we pretty much go through the same onboarding and training process. We don't have to recreate it. Maybe we slightly update it. So that's one thing that I think actually saves a lot of time in building that out, a really important new hire onboarding internship process. We also then do group intern meetings every other week. So instead of individually meeting with everyone, which again also brings awareness to them, what are other opportunities that exist in companies, it becomes a cool learning experience. And then maybe if they need an individual meeting, then we'll schedule those meetings also. But we're really trying to create this group environment and talking about what everybody's doing, but also just being really clear on the specific project goals and tasks that the intern's doing. It shouldn't be these like mundane, repetitive tasks, because that's really not what an internship is supposed to be anyway. So just being really clear, like you would if you're working with a consultant or anybody, here's the project, is exactly what it is. Here's the check-ins that we'll have. But that process really streamlines the amount of work that has to be done. And then combining, like I said, these internship cohorts into the onboarding as well as the ongoing meeting saves a significant amount of time.
And I'm curious, have you found that there is maybe a good general time frame that you really like to go with for internship programs, whether it's a 3-month program, a 1-year program? How do you typically approach that?
Yeah, so we have two usually. We have a summer. So we usually typically start recruiting in March, April for the internships, knowing usually May, June is kind of the time that they typically want to start. We will do 3-month internships or year internships, depending on the needs of the student, depending on the role. For example, on the R&D side, we ideally prefer a year because there's a lot of learning and uptime that it takes just to become familiar with the concepts that we're using for our specific product formulations and the types of education and white papers and all of these things that we want to do. Other ones, business development, marketing, maybe there's not as much training that needs to happen for them to really gain value in the internship program that they're doing. But oftentimes it's kind of cool as we get through the close to the end of the 3 months and they're like, well, by the way, can I just go ahead and extend it? I'll just work less hours or commitment. That's actually happened most of the time because they're gaining the experience that they want. But sometimes depending on their program and what they're studying, we have had some students that are like, no, but can I come back next year? I just want to do the 3 months. And we have had a couple 6 months, but not too many, usually 3 months in the 12-month internship programs.
Oh, that's fascinating. And I'm curious, how do you typically go about finding like applicants, let's say? Do you tend to partner with different universities, more so like job posting sites? What have you found most effective there?
Yeah, partnering with the different schools that have the specific knowledge and education programming that we're looking for. But also, LinkedIn has been probably one of the best platforms, which you wouldn't necessarily think from an internship perspective. There's specific ones that are targeted more for interns. We will post on Indeed and stuff like that as well. But most of the time, actually, through LinkedIn. And what's kind of good is the people that come through, or the interns that come through LinkedIn, often have done a lot more research already about the company and about the people in the company. So they're much more proactive in their approach to looking for their internship. But we do also partner with certain universities too that we've found interns that come at a high quality. So it's kind of been a combination of both.
Talk to us about the third pillar. What's the third thing that you found most effective? Call it the scaling the output for the business.
Yeah, I mean, the big elephant in the room is AI, right? Everybody's talking about AI. And I think AI utilized in the right way really can have significant impacts on a business, to the point that I've actually jumped in and I'm co-founding an AI consulting company as well. I love technology and doing business advisory work as well and strategy work. There's just significant implications on the value of AI, but applied in the right way and applied like most people I think aren't necessarily using it right now, but it allows you to scale your operations, become more efficient, have better data insights, be able to make more grounded decisions with the access to knowledge that you do have. So yeah, AI to me is the third pillar, really being able to scale, and it can allow small teams to act as larger teams. But I think the thing that's important is continuing to think about how AI works with human insight and input and having those guardrails around it, because I don't necessarily think it replaces humans. It can in some specific roles potentially, but even so, even in those roles, it has to be guided by humans, is kind of what I believe.
Definitely. So within that, talk to me about one of the AI use cases that you hear about that always makes you grimace when you hear, oh, I can't believe this person is handing this task off to an AI tool.
I mean, there's a couple that, I was just actually working on kind of a brand strategy AI agent for the AI consulting company and an AI brand voice architect. And what the thing that makes me cringe is that a lot of people aren't using it to the capacity that they need to build in the framework and guardrails to keep a company safe, to keep their voice in the way and context that they've built the company to keep their framework, whether it's their ethics and their organizational structure within a specific framework. So I think just the way that a lot of people are using it, simply just going into ChatGPT. I was on another group webinar type thing, and they had a breakout room and people were talking about how they're using AI. There were two founders in there that were solo founders that had just set up ChatGPT as a project and were using it as their CFO, their COO, their CMO. And I was like, well, what instructions did you put around it? What type of project files are you using? Did you do this? And like, no, I just went in and said, you're going to act as the CFO for my company and help build this out for me. And I was like, well, to me, that's the problem, is that they're using it as this kind of fancy search engine knowledge base bot, which it's amazing, but you have to put the framework around it so it can really understand what it is you want to do. What are the guardrails to be able to achieve? Sure, you could achieve these projections, but at what cost? Or sure, you could have an amazing amount of content, but is it going to sound authentic like you? Is it 6 months, everyone's going to sound the same and everyone's going to look the same? And how do you differentiate the core essence of who you are as a brand, especially on the CPG side? I mean, the video VO3, and I mean, it's amazing. There's all of these AI influencer actors now. You can't even tell the difference. But what does it sound like and what does it feel like? And where's the restraints in terms of what's acceptable or not acceptable? That to me, which is why I jumped into really excited about partnering on the AI consulting side of helping companies think about these decisions, yeah, there's cool workflows and automations. You can automate your entire lead gen process. You can automate your entire customer interactions, your operations side, which is amazing. But if you don't have this voice in your internal, your external communications, if you don't have the guardrails around the business, then that concerns me in terms of AI kind of going rogue and making decisions that you, with the human, you might not otherwise, or even building the workflows out, but having the human approval process, for content before it's just pushed out, just looking at it and making sure that, okay, yeah, I still approve this and it's okay. I'm not going to post 100 automated posts without me even keeping my eyes on what's happening.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, to me, like AI has been so exciting to watch evolve. It's been so exciting to figure out where can we incorporate this into our process and where should we not incorporate it, at least yet. But I love what you said about the guardrails. One of the things I talk to our team about a lot is I say treat AI as an executive assistant that will stab you in the back the moment that you turn your back to it. And I think that's a good way of looking at it, in that it's really powerful. It can do so many great things, and it has access to so much more information than any human being ever will.
Yeah.
But it does need that level of like human touch to make sure that it's not putting out misinformation, to make sure that even if we look at it in terms of how AI tools can potentially perceive like one demographic group, there's a lot of concerns, both business professional and then also ethical, that come into play. So I love what you said about ensuring that you have those proper guardrails around it. Now, let's say inverse side of the coin, what have you found to be your favorite efficiency that you've rolled out with AI, or like your favorite workflow that you are now incorporating AI for regularly?
I mean, so personally, I have a personal brand voice, which is something that we created tied into a company brand voice architect. So whenever I'm doing any writing, emails, sales outreach, anything, I'm able to have it run through this process. And it is amazing. It sounds just like me. And even the nuances that I pick up. But for me, I'm a perfectionist. So when I write something, I'll write it, I'll reread it, I'll rewrite it. I finally send the email and then I'm like, wait a second, should I have sent that email? So for me, it's saved my mind considerable amount of time of just being able to have it written in my voice, layered in as a sub-layer with the company brand voice architect also. And so, yeah, that's been one of my favorite efficiencies. I mean, there's so many, from, lead generation, especially on our side on customer FAQs and being able to guide a customer to making product decisions and choices. We're very deep on Element Apothec with our education. So being able to build in some of those processes has also been really cool to see it unfold. And yeah, then just some of the things that we're doing on the agency side for building out complete workflow processes, streamlining efficiencies for service-based businesses, and being able to help with some of the manual steps that were happening, working with the CRM and improving the quality of that. R&D has been another favorite of mine, to just have so much access to an incredible amount of data. But again, even putting guardrails on the responses of like, give me the best research, give me the pros and cons on what this research might be if I'm making a decision on X. So also, because the thing with a lot of these AI and LLMs is they have a tendency to be very positive, but I also still want the hard facts. And I want somebody that's the naysayer, that's the devil's advocate, that's like, well, if you make this decision, you also have to think about X, Y, and Z. So for me, utilizing it in that way has also been helpful, thinking about scenario playing and what's the best case and what's the worst case that might happen based off of certain decisions.
I love that. And I love the devil's advocate use case for it. I've done quite a bit of that as well in my writing, where I'll say, hey, play the role of insert target reader, read through this article, poke holes in it, ask follow-up questions. And I always say, like, if it gives 10 recommendations or 10 questions, if 3 of those are great, then it's a really valuable use of my time to do that. That can make my article twice as good as it originally was. So I love the devil's advocate angle for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the graphics and stuff are starting to be so impressive through VO3. Even Claude, I think, is amazing with generating graphs. And it just, What I love is that you can produce more work at a higher level of efficiency. But I always say it's feeling comfortable with these framework that you've established around it, to me, has been the key to being able to use it successfully or being able to help other clients use it successfully also.
And I'm curious, do you have a personal preference amongst the LLMs, whether it be ChatGPT, Claude? What's your go-to?
I use all of them oftentimes, and I love it even in some of the workflows that I've built. It's first check Claude and then through a workflow, go through Perplexity and do deeper research on this, go back to Claude and then go to ChatGPT. So I oftentimes will use 3 or 4 in any output of anything that I do. And we do the same thing on the agency side too. And also, though, some companies have very specific guardrails, like we only want to stay within this specific framework. So it's this kind of fun process of going here and going back here and checking here and let me give my input, and then it'll go back out for more research. So I actually like the interplay because I think they each have strengths specifically in what they do. Perplexity, by far, I think has the best deep research, even though ChatGPT and Claude are coming up quickly. So I feel like they each have their strengths. And so being able to interplay off of each of those, just like you would if you were a team and you have a team of 5 and you produce work and then you give it to someone else to check and then you give it to someone else. And at the end, you have this amazing piece of work, because I don't think any LLM is the go-to final product in my perspective. So I like the interchange between them.
One more question that stands out to me on call it the broad AI side of things. For listeners that maybe have never tried out ChatGPT, Claude, you name it, is there a good starting point you would recommend for them? Like a first assignment that you would recommend that they test out to start getting a little more comfortable with it before they start embracing larger scale automations, connecting a few different LLMs together? I want to start ground level. Where do you think is a really good place I should experiment?
I just think starting even with your personal life, thinking about how you could utilize it. So, just going in and asking simple questions, asking maybe more profound questions that you've thought about if there's something. Like for me, when I first started using it a while back, actually, it's been a while when it first was even released for public to be able to use, which was a bit ago, was just, I want to improve the quality of my fitness routine. I want to improve the quality of my meditations, give me guided meditations for 30 days that are based off of these specific principles. So it was just gaining comfort with the value that it brought to me personally before I was able to start gaining trust in how could it help my company. And then I started running through, I would write things and then I would personally, which I still do most of the time, I started writing LinkedIn posts and then I would run it through ChatGPT. And then I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool how it updated this. I'm going to use that instead. It's my words, but it's updated and added. I'm never comfortable with it completely just writing in certain platforms like LinkedIn, for example. I still want it to have authenticity. So I kind of at least give a framework now. And now that I have the personal brand voice, it's able to write more in my context. But yeah, so just playing with things like that, just to gain comfort, to say, oh, I could see the value in this. If there's a research project, that could be another way with Perplexity. If you're looking to do some research on a specific variable within your company, that could be a good place because Perplexity will give you, the output always is whoa, how much research did you? You just quoted 15 different sources, which would have taken me a week to get this level of research, and you just did it in a couple minutes. So research is another good place to test it. Or if you want to run, this is our business operations for our customer service contacts, and upload that and say, do you have any suggestions to improve the output or the interactions for this? Then I think those are good ways just to start to get pieces of value from it and build comfort level with what the output is from it.
Davina, this has been so great today. I want to talk through places that listeners can go to follow you, learn more. Let's start out with the AI service business. First of all, what is the name of the business and where can we go to learn more about it?
Yeah, so that's poptechstudio.ai, just poptechstudio.ai. So yeah, that's where you could go to get information. If you have any questions on any automations or workflows or The brand voice, I recommend everyone doing a brand voice. But we have a really cool website audit on there as well. The interesting thing, I think, just quickly on the website audit and LLMs is that SEO has completely changed, which I'm sure. And so thinking about how you can utilize LLMs to actually bring up your company requires a whole different way of thinking about SEO. So that's kind of an exciting thing. But yeah, poptechstudio.ai is on the AI side.
Amazing, amazing. And agreed. It's been so fun to watch how SEO has evolved in this AI era. Let's talk about Element. So where can listeners go, let's say, first of all, to follow Element Apothec online? What are some of the big channels you are active on?
Yeah, so mostly Instagram or LinkedIn. So you can go on there and search for Element Apothec. We have lots of nice videos and clips and educational pieces. And then our website, elementapothec.com, to learn more. We have quite an extensive blog content on there, not just of our products, but really about living a healthier, clean life and integrating plant-based medicine and alternative remedies. We also do free 15-minute consultations if anybody wants to move into that route of more plant-based care and working and meeting with one of our pharmacists, integrative pharmacists, to talk about what you're currently doing and the path that you can get on to make that change in your life.
Amazing. Davina, this has been amazing. Once again, listeners, this is Davina Kaonohi, the CEO and co-founder over at Element Apothec. Davina, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And if anyone wants to connect on LinkedIn too, I love having conversations. I'm always open for providing any insights I can and just networking and exploring there. We always learn so much from each other. So I'm always open to conversations.
Thanks for tuning in to Customer Growth Sessions. If you found it helpful, subscribe and give us a review. It helps us to grow the show. Looking for more SEO guidance on how to grow your business? Contact us at intergrowth.com/estimator or email me directly. You can reach me at pat@intergrowth.com. That's all for today. We'll see you again soon.